Okay, good evening and welcome to the December 8th, 2022 meeting of the Haverford Township Planning Commission. Marge, would you call roll, please?
Mr. Capuzzi.
Present.
Mr. Channon.
Present.
Ms. Dobbs. Present. Mr. Fiordemondo. Present. Mr. Garrett. Ms. Phillips. Mr. Montresor.
Okay, thanks, Marge. I ask everyone to rise and join me at the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on our agenda this evening is a continuation of our review of the Township's comprehensive plan. And we're currently in the second draft of that plan. And I see a couple of people in the audience. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to say that hasn't already been said? Please give us your name and where you live.
My name is Frank Parisi, and I spend a lot of time on Haverford Road. I am not a resident of the township. I'm a businessman, or I try to be a businessman.
Frank, you've spoken to us before, right?
Pardon?
You've spoken with us before, correct?
I spoke, yes, before.
Yes, and you've written us a lengthy letter before. And I think last time...
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, you wrote us a lengthy letter
Yes, I did.
that we received that one of the folks
Cohorts
in
in
the
crime.
audience presented that to us last month. Okay, so do you have anything new that you would like to add?
Well, I don't know.
What's already been
If she,
said.
I don't believe she went through the whole thing. I guess
We went through...
I was rather surprised. I sent the letter out, and I also sent it to what I thought was the managing people within the township. And quite frankly, I was somewhat dismayed. I got one response back that said, "I'm not a property owner. Don't include me, please, on future communication." I got it through automatic back that says I'm out of town. And I didn't get anything from anyone else. So I don't know if it reached people or it didn't reach people.
It reached us. We got copies.
Well, I guess in the business world, when I was there, right, wrong, or indifferent, I would probably send something back to the person and say, "Thank you, I'll take it into consideration."
Well,
But
I
again,
believe-
I do
believe
things.
You emailed us individually on the Planning
Pardon me?
Commission. You emailed us individually.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Okay,
so we received your comments.
And I think I put on there return receipt requested, and I didn't get any of those. But be that as it may, what I'm here for is to have a constructive conversation to see if we can't, I don't, and as I try to state in my letter, I don't like the plan, and I try to state the reasons why I don't like it. I think most of all, I've met a lot of good people in the township. A lot of them live on the Rosemont and Belmont and whatever you call that area up there along the Rhine. And they know nothing about this plan. They don't like it. They signed petitions. And by the way, I don't know if you're aware of it, but this gentleman over here, between the in-store and online petition, has over 10,000 signatures. And if that doesn't get the attention, I don't know what will, okay? That's, I believe, about 1/5 of your population here. Don't know if they're all from Haverford Township, but most people don't think it's a good idea. Now, I don't know what business you folks are in, but in the business that I'm in, what's important is to get people in the store, feet on the street. And if you have a head nut, that gets, especially this time of year, a lot of people there, a lot of them do stop over for a case of beer. if you have a Sherwin-Williams paint store, which is next door to it, a lot of the people from Sherwin-Williams stop in our store and buy a case of beer. Now, a high-density, high-rise development will have some customers for us, but those are static customers. They're a case of beer every week and a half or 2 weeks. The growth that we're looking for is something in advance of that. And that only comes when you have people like the Head Nut, people like Sherwin-Williams, people like the R.J. Miller or Bob Miller Roofing Company. That's what we should be looking at. Now, the problem I have with it, with your plan, is you went out and you hired an urban planner. And he did his job. He came up with an urban plan for you. How about going out there and getting a economic development planner and a suburban planner that's going to come in and hopefully show you the good parts of that? I think one of the other flaws, and I didn't put this in my letter, is you haven't had anyone, and I don't think anyone here is from that Haverford Road, Belmont, Rosemont, Winfield, Wynwood, whatever it is there. I don't think they're from that community. So you have outsiders dictating what's going to happen to those people living there. Now, if I were in a position to put in place a plan, I would think I would want some people from within that can say, yeah, I've looked at it, and here are the pros and cons. There may be something that I'm missing. Okay, I try to keep an open mind on these things, but there could be something I'm missing. Right now, I'm somewhat negative on the plan, and I've tried to be constructive in the way I've approached it. There's a lot of things, and I keep on bringing up this property behind Haverford College. I think you're interested in getting more rateables in the town. You want more parcels of land that are going to pay taxes. You want more improvements on those parcels that are going to pay taxes. Okay? You have behind Haverford College strips of land there. I don't think it's going to be in anyone's line of sight. If you put high-rise housing on Haverford Road, the people on Rosemont are going to look out their back window and they're going to see it. You might as well put a smokestack, or you might as well put a windmill or something like that back there. Behind Haverford College, you got vacant land. I don't believe the colleges pay tax, so you can convert that and get rateables from that. You put high-rise on there, and you're going to have that. I don't know anyone on Rosemont that's going to get on a train and go to King of Prussia Mall or wherever those trains go to. And I don't think they're probably going to start doing it. The student body likes that sort of thing. They're progressive in their looking. And if I were doing it, I would examine that possibility of having what you're saying behind Haverford College. Now,
where when you say behind Haverford College, I don't understand where that is.
Haverford Road behind Haverford College.
You mean along Haverford Road on the campus?
No, not on the campus side, on the other side.
What that Haverford College? Who owns that ground?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but
So you want the township to build this project?
no, I want you to change the zoning so they could have high-density, high-rise housing.
Is that your comment for tonight, that you want us to change the zoning on that property?
My understanding is you want to. I could be shooting from the hip and not know what I'm talking about. My understanding is that you would like to change the zoning to permit high-rise, high-density housing, or permit multiple dwellings or something like that, like on the parcels on Haverford Road and on Eagle Road. That's my understanding. Now, if I'm half-cocked and completely off base, please tell me, because I've spent a lot of time looking at that. My understanding also is that you're considering to use eminent domain.
No, there's nothing to report about eminent domain. As a matter of fact, report goes into details saying that they don't want to use eminent domain.
Okay,
So
well,
whatever
God,
book you're reading, you're not reading it correctly.
Well,
Or
my
whoever's telling you what's in the book is not giving you the right information.
Okay, well, my understanding is that, and you brought it up, and it sounds like you're a disciple of the Malvern plan, where they put that unit in Malvern on King Street against the people's wishes, and they used eminent domain to get it there. That is my understanding.
That's not our plan.
I've talked to people.
That's not our plan. You understand
Well,
that?
okay, fine.
You understand
Well, that's
that?
good.
That's
So,
not our
so what
plan.
you're saying, you're not going to use eminent domain, but
Right.
you're saying you do want to change the zoning. Is that correct?
We want to allow for more development in those particular areas, yes.
Okay, and I'm saying we don't want these.
And I understand that.
We
You've
don't
said
need
that
change.
5 different times already, okay?
Okay.
If that's your comment, that you're opposed to the plan, we understand that. Do you have anything else you want to say? You've been up here for 7 minutes now.
There's a significant problem with on-street housing in terms of
With
site.
what type of housing? I'm sorry.
On-street housing, on-street
On-street.
high-rise housing, yes. That's what I call what you're trying to foster here.
Okay.
Okay, and that is that we all have, there's tens of thousands of dollars invested in signage along Haverford Road by the business community. What that does is it lessens and makes it less effective in terms of getting people who are going to stop there to do business and find us, okay? And I think that's important. The other thing I don't like about high-rise housing and high-density housing is that every city that we have has some problems. And those problems come to that area where you have a high density. And those are problems of hangouts and drugs. And that, I think, is another thing that we need to look at, because if you look at the number of fentanyl deaths and so on that we have in this country, it's out of control.
And you're saying that's true in every case.
Pardon me?
You said every high-rise development has those problems.
That's a sink for it. That's a magnet for it.
And you say that's true in every case.
I'm saying that's a possibility.
Oh, possibility. It's not true in every case, though, is it?
Okay.
Okay.
If you look
You
at
agree or no?
if you look at where that problem exists, you're generally going to find high-rise, high-density population. Would you agree with that?
No,
Well,
because I don't have the
So,
facts.
and that's-
Like, I don't
that's
have
what
the
makes a
facts.
horse race.
I can't make a statement that says every time or always. I can't make that statement because I don't have
no,
the
that's
facts.
what I'm saying. I'm saying
You said every
if you look
development.
at
You said every high-rise
if you look
development. Look, I don't want to debate it with you, okay? You've had 10 minutes now. I'm cutting you off now, okay? Because this is the third time you've talked to us. We have
no,
your
it's the
letter.
second time.
We
we
know
talked.
your
Could I-
we
could
know
I
your
use a few minutes
feelings.
of someone's time, sir? Could I
What's
use
that?
someone's time?
Third time.
Okay, I'm almost through anyhow. Okay,
I don't care if you're almost through or not. I said you're done. I can control the meeting, and I can limit to 3 minutes the amount of time people speak. And I'm asking for 2 new comments, not rehashing what's already been said dozens of times
Well,
before.
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to understand what your game plan is, and I'm coming away with less rather than more. I'm trying to be constructive. I'm trying to anticipate what you're really after, and I'm not sure. I guess you're after a zoning change. Is that correct?
That's the recommendation of the comprehensive plan.
That's
Yes.
what?
That's a recommendation in the comprehensive plan.
That's
A recommendation in the comprehensive plan is to revise the zoning along the east side of Haverford Road between Lorraine and Wynwood Road.
well, fine. If that's a recommendation, I think it's a ill-conceived plan. I think it runs right into the
And you understand
the face
that just
of
because
a
it's-
lot of hardworking people that don't want the change and suggest, and I try to give you an alternate, that you take that, and I don't know why that is, that you've targeted that.
Okay, when you say you, who do you mean you targeted that?
Well, the committee and
The committee, this plan, this commission did not prepare the comprehensive plan. It was given to us to review. We didn't prepare the plan.
Did someone gave you a statement that said review the east side of
Yes,
Haverford Road?
that's correct.
And
They
who
gave
was
us a
that?
report. They gave us a report and said, here, review this report, Planning Commission, and that's what we're doing. We are somehow being blamed for as being authors of this plan, and we're not.
Does the annual report say to look at the east side of Haverford Road between Lorraine?
The comprehensive plan says that.
I thought you were developing the comprehensive plan.
We're reviewing the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission did not develop the comprehensive plan.
Who developed the comprehensive plan?
Who?
Yeah,
A steering committee appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
the steering committee.
A steering committee prepared the plan. That's correct.
Are you familiar with who the steering committee is?
We also cannot, Frank, we don't adopt the comprehensive plan. We review it, we comment on it, and we hear public comments about it, which we've been doing. And we take them seriously.
If I go to your website, is there indeed the members of the steering committee?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If I go to the website, is there indeed a committee there that says the steering committee?
It absolutely does. On the
Okay.
comprehensive plan portion of the website, there's a
'Cause
list.
I try to copy the commissioners on this rag I made up here, and that evidently went into the dead zone as well. Okay, I haven't heard any back from any of those folks.
I can't control
That's
how people
fine,
respond
okay.
to emails.
Well, I'm learning more, and I appreciate the time, I really do, and I hope I haven't offended anyone or been redundant.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Well, wait a minute, no, I don't rush so fast, please, thank you. Laurie Dowdy, Haverford Township. I live in the Merwood Park section. Good evening. So I haven't had a chance, and Mr. Capuzzi, you were going to help me decide or help me get understanding about comments that were made when Ms. Dobbs was here on September 8th in talking with Christina Haas and talking about the affordable housing or whatever. That was her comment. And then Jane Hall came up, and a part of the discussion that Maggie, you had said, we have a mix of housing types, and if you don't, I'm just paraphrasing, but I do have a recording of your thing here, and since you're here, Ms. Dobbs, just if it's exactly right or not, maybe a word's off. We have a mix of housing types. You build new housing that drives the new housing value up because it's new construction and it's generally more highly valued, which then drives the cost of existing housing down. So I didn't see when Christine Haas was like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. Jane, come up here. Jane comes running up, and she's, oh, I disagree as she's running up. But then when she grandstanded for 15 minutes or so, and then also praising you guys and thanking you, and I thank you for what you're doing too, but she never really got to the point why she disagreed with what you had said. And when you haven't been here, and I understand things come up, but Mr. Capuzzi has not been able to address what I wanted to have addressed until you came back. I'm glad you're here tonight to really tell me what that meant. If you don't recall, I can replay it. I have a clip of it here to talk about what was that meant. And then later on, I saw in the audience, Jane Hall was trying to say to Christine, "What that can't be." But when she got up here disagreeing with it, like she was her rear end was on fire, she didn't address why she was actually disagreeing with what you had said. It was almost like, look at all this. I developed, Haverford, Discover Haverford, HPED, never ever addressing why she raced up here to tell you all that she disagreed that this level of this lucrative apartment dwellings above these business areas would have any effect. It wasn't going to be students living there. It's more lucrative. It's not going to be something that's really, shoddy kind of housing. These were going to be more expensive and actually bringing attention to them and making them more, attractive, which would then make maybe houses. I live right near all this, and if it's going to affect my house, my value of my home, that really is something I don't like. I'm not going to like. I've stayed here. I've been here in this township for 29 years. I've liked it this way, and I don't really want to see it change. Nobody, again, I said this before, and I will repeat it. I like the way my township has been. I don't want to see it change. I live near all this stuff, And if it is going to affect me and my value of my home, then yeah, I'm not for it though. But I wanted to hear, maybe to hear from you what that was meaning, because nobody could address it since you weren't here, and I wanted to hear it from you. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm not an economist, and I'm not an expert in housing economy. So what I was saying was a generalization, and so again, I can't predict values of homes.
Sure.
But in my profession, we discuss this generally, that whenever you build new housing, and it's really going to differ, right? So you build a lot of new multifamily housing, you build a lot of new single-family housing, you build a lot of, missing middle housing like the twins and the duplexes. It's going to impact other housing stock differently. So it's not necessarily a one-to-one equation, like you build a multifamily home and I don't know what type of house you live in.
Single family.
So it's not like you build a multifamily housing unit and all of a sudden your single-family home plummets in value. That's not what I was saying. It's not a one-to-one
Yeah, it was
like
this
that.
hand motion that Jane was like, this thing.
Yeah, it's
I know,
not
I know,
this.
I know.
It's not like we build this housing and then all of a sudden you have no value in your home. There's a lot that goes into housing values, and again, I can't speak really to that because that is not my profession. That is not my area of expertise. But when you talk about building new housing, there's going to be different demand for different housing types. The value of building new housing is to create more choice and to create better opportunities for people to pick the housing type that's suitable for them.
Based on their income.
Based on their
right.
needs, based
Right.
on their age, based on their income, whatever the case is. But what economists have said in the papers that I've read is that my understanding is that there is some sort of kind of cost benefit that goes into it where you build new housing. New housing tends to be more expensive, which then comparably makes existing housing stock more affordable for other people. So it's not that it's driving the cost of existing housing down, and it's not that it's driving the value of existing housing down. It's just creating different levels of affordability for people based on the age of the housing, the location, so I mean, everything that goes into it. So when you're talking about a supply and demand situation, the US as a whole, I don't know specifically what it is for Haverford Township, but I mean, the US as a whole, we are in a major housing deficit, right? We went through a housing crash in 2008, a lot of development just plummeted, and then you have rising population, you've got, folks my age, Gen Z kids, we're all like moving out, trying to find new houses. The average household size is decreasing, which indicates that there's more people who are living alone. So fewer families, more people living alone. When you have singles, couples looking for housing, they need a different type of housing, and they're going to place demand on the existing housing stock for different housing types. When you have a lot of demand and you don't have a lot of supply, basic economy says it drives prices up.
Right.
You build more housing, it drives prices down. So it's not that it's like reducing the value of your house, it's just creating more opportunity for more people to find the appropriate housing type for them here in the township. And really, that's kind of the point that I was trying to get at.
Yeah, it didn't seem like Christine was like, well, I don't know if I like that. And then that's when Jane came up and said, I disagree. And so it left a lot of us with nobody else refuting what you were saying and nobody else really explaining. So all that time, it's been sort of stirring that I wanted to find out. I mean, it helps to explain a little bit, I guess. In some ways, who's to know how? I mean, it depends on how it's going to develop, but there's a possibility. And I think one of the things you were saying too is regionally, we've seen trends. I mean, maybe it's in your other position that you can, in a regional way, maybe we see things going on. So that meant to me like, oh, maybe this, generally speaking, could be an issue for me or a risk or something. So that's why I wanted to check with you guys. So yeah, that was pretty much all I wanted to ask while that you're here. So welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee Molyneux from 2408 Haverford Road, the Head Nut. My concern is if you're looking at the comprehensive plan, now what I'm seeing on the latest detail in the book is there's been a big revision on it with maybe just going with the beautification along Haverford Road. Is that part of what's going on right now?
Explain to me what you mean by beautification.
Like revitalizing it, making it more cleaner, nicer looking. Like there's the Jim Miller building now, which is going to be the CrossFit MFP. They're taking the whole building now. So they're doing this grant program that is available from the township. I'm not sure if you know about that or not. But they
Excuse me,
Talking
Lee.
about the facade program?
whatever this grant program to make the outside and bring in trees.
There's,
and,
federal
yeah.
funds were given by the township, which is using part of those federal funds to improve facades on existing businesses.
okay, so basically the thing is, if this project could be altered for another location within the township, because I'm pretty sure if you would kind of introduce to the residents and include the residents and businesses that are currently in this township, include them into a survey or some sort of like input what this township should really look like, instead of going through the steering commission, which seems to have this whole situation and the outlook for this township in a negative way. There are some positives, yes, but there are a lot of negatives. It changes the whole look of this township, and this township is more of a residential than a high-rise. That's like bringing the city out and extending out the city throughout the suburbs. Most people want to live in the suburbs now, besides the people that work in the city and like to work that and live in that fast-paced, constant motion situation. Haverford Township has always been known as a very quiet township. You can go out at night and you're not going to hear anything much, except maybe the trolley or the train right on the old R5, or maybe a car honking a horn once in a while. But then if you're looking at all these high-rise apartments and such, and you're going to hear a lot more noise throughout this township. There's going to be a significant increase of constant in and out of people coming into those apartments at all hours of the day and night. Crime levels typically go up with those situations and those new high rises and apartments and everything. Also, there is not taxed from that, it's just taxed from the property owner. How much is that really going to help this township? Not a whole lot, because people want to live in more single homes in this township. There's plenty of open space within this township that could be used for that. The thing is, the business district is a business district. It should be included in every aspect of this township in the future of what this township should really look like. There's a lot of historic businesses. One of them is the Head Nut. The other one is Ardmore Park Beverage. There's DMI, who's been here for 40 years. There's the bowling alley. They want to have nice areas to work and be around, not these high rises, which is going to cause all sorts of noise. It's not going to fit this township the way that you may realize. That's where I see that this township should have went, instead of the steering committee, should have actually had all the township locations within those sections polled, or, given some sort of survey, interact with the businesses, interact with the residents within that district. That's how it should go, not by bringing in people that don't know this township, or some live in this township or some don't. But the thing is, the township needs to work with the current residents and the current business owners. And I'm pretty sure some of you may agree or disagree, but this township was built on blue-collar, hard-working citizens. And that's going to lower, especially that, when you get to apartments. Apartments are transient, typically. You're only there for a little bit of time, then you finally move out. And that's where the whole thing comes around of crime and other situations, and as noted, drugs and noise levels. That's the main concern. If you think of all that, and this police force is not going to be happy with that. It's going to drive up their service levels. The EMS is going to have a much more increase on their calls going out to all these residents that are going to be put up or that may not put up. But if you think about this township, there's so lack of communication, as I said. This township needs more clarity on, or you want to say transparency of communication. And I think that this whole thing needs to be completely revamped in a different way. Moving it from one spot, yes, I know that there's the Haverford Township where or basically the college, right up against the train tracks. That's what he was recommending. That would be an ideal place for some new businesses and some apartments above it. That'd be a little bit easier to handle there than it would be where Eagle and Wynwood is, and also downward towards Lorraine. There's a lot of traffic there. Not as much as it was pre-COVID, but it has dropped dramatically since COVID. People are now working at home. There's been a shift in that, and people are going to continue working from home now. So the traffic is lighter, and it makes sense keeping it that way. Now, this township, could there be a revision of this whole comprehensive plan to exclude where it currently is and allow the businesses to work with the community in upkeeping and making this township look a lot better? If you think about it, that's the win-win situation for this township, is to work with the businesses and the current residents of those areas. Would that be taken into account? Could that be worked with the steering committee that's currently active?
The steering committee's not active right now.
Okay.
They'd have to be reformed.
Okay, they would have to be reformed.
Correct.
Okay. How about reforming that with who's the residents and the businesses?
Well, that's not our decision. That's the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, I will bring that up to them. But
Just so we're clear, I'm just sorry, I just want to get back to one thing really
Right.
quick. So people who live in multi-unit dwellings
yes,
are more likely to be drug addicts and criminals?
there has been some statistics
Do you
on
have,
that.
do you
I
have
don't
those?
have any
You don't
offhand
have them?
right
Can
now,
you-
but
Could you send them to me?
I can find those and I
That'd
can
be
get them
lovely.
for
Thank you.
Yes.
I had a separate question for you too.
Yes.
I was re-reviewing the revisions on page 18 for the Haverford Road corridor, and I was just curious because I think that it could be better explained what the intent of the document is, but they're mentioning here that there is some, and this is a quote, the revision says there are some public concerns to the new development that would likely be 3 stories instead of 1. 3 stories isn't typically a high-rise, so I'm just kind of curious, like, what you define as a high-rise.
If you look at the statistic, or not, let's just say, single story is your typical suburban. Now, if you're getting past that, then you're starting to look like a extension of the city.
So-
Raising up 3 levels is dramatic in this township.
I'm sorry, so
The head nut is 2 stories.
Yes,
So
2
I don't
stories.
know what
It's-
you have on your second floor, but that could be like, residential, or I mean, your commercial on the bottom.
Yes.
Lee, I'm sorry, is it not an apartment? on the
Yes,
second floor?
2 apartments.
2 apartments?
2.
Okay.
Yes.
When was your last rental license? When was the last time you had a rental license? Do you have a current rental license?
I have to look that up.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, but just getting back to that, so, I mean, instead of just being 2 stories, if you added 1 more story to that, then each apartment, we're just saying hypothetically, would be 2 stories. So it wouldn't necessarily be a huge multi-tenant complex. It would just be a mixed-use building, commercial on the bottom, and then the ability to rent out space.
I would say it'd be much more easier to handle with using it as a 1 level instead of 3. It fits within the aesthetics of this township.
So one level, so are you saying that one level is a single story? So you would prefer your building and buildings around you to be a 1 floor?
Business, and then it could be 1 level apartment.
Okay, so that's a
or
2-story
2-story,
building.
if you want to look at that, but,
Okay, do you gain a lot of extra income from your rental properties?
not really, no, because we haven't rented them out in so long now,
Okay,
so.
so just hypothetically then, well, never mind.
No, you can,
No, I don't really have a good thought, so I don't want to.
okay.
You know, typically in the residential districts in Haverford Township, the building height is 3 stories or 35 feet. You're aware of that, right?
Okay,
So every single-family home, as you call them, could have 3 stories to,
yes,
okay, you understand that?
but the height of what would occur here would be your first level, which is the businesses, and then 3 stories above it. That's what was in the comprehensive.
A 3-story building would be ground floor, retail, and then 2 stories of residential above. And so typically a ground floor, like in a new construction, mixed-use building, mixed use being commercial on 1 level and then either residential or commercial above. So you could have like a dentist office or like a personal services or apartments on the stories above. It's typically like a 14-foot floor to floor on the first level and then 10 feet, 10 feet. So you're really only looking at, plus like a little bit on top for utilities. So you're really only looking at like a 40-foot height building. And I live in a twin and it's a 3-story building. It was built 140 years ago and that's a 36-foot height building. So it's really a negligible difference in terms of height when you look at the existing housing stock and a 3-story building. So I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing, because if you go to Bryn Mawr downtown on Lancaster Avenue, most of those are only 2 stories. If you go to Ardmore, the downtown, most of those are 3 stories. So I just want to get a sense from you what kind of development you feel is too much.
Having the extra story on top is
So anything in
over.
Ardmore, so you would want to see the Lancaster Avenue through Bryn Mawr over the Lancaster Avenue in Ardmore.
Yeah, be a lower, much more within the township look. This is supposed to be a suburb, and they've changed so much up there in Lower Marion and Narberth. It's unbelievable.
Narberth doesn't have any buildings in the downtown over 3 stories.
They're also working on their plan too, or working throughout.
I wrote their comprehensive plan,
Oh,
so I
you
know
did?
what it is.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And the other thing to remember is whatever's in the comprehensive plan still has to go through, if the recommendations are adopted by the commissioners, then there's a whole round of changes that have to be made to zoning ordinance. So the definitions of building height, number of stories, and all that thing still have to go through a change, a revision to the zoning code in order to incorporate those recommendations. So we can't sit here and say what the building height is going to be because it hasn't been written yet, and won't be written unless that part of the comprehensive plan is adopted.
Okay, do we have any interaction with the people that are writing a comprehensive plan?
You have,
we-
wait a minute, when you say writing the comprehensive plan,
Or
you have the
revisions.
right, as you're doing tonight, to express your opinion about what the comprehensive plan says. After it's adopted, you have the right to attend meetings and listen to and comment on whatever revisions are being proposed for these zoning ordinances to incorporate changes recommended in the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
So you have the opportunity to comment on the comprehensive plan, which you're doing now, and you have the opportunity to comment on any zoning changes or revisions that might occur as a result of what's written in the comprehensive plan.
okay.
Okay?
Is this steering committee also,
My-
that they're not active
The
now? as you
planning
said?
commission will review whatever's sent to us.
Okay.
Okay?
Are they getting input directly from all this, being inputted towards their ideas and the steering committee ideas?
Well,
Are they
if-
getting informed?
If the committee is reconvened, then they will get all the comments that we've gotten.
And will the public be able to talk to them directly?
Those meetings of the committee, if I'm not,
Yeah, she left.
they're open to the public, and I believe they're advertised too.
Okay,
And I know you weren't aware of the plan when it was being drafted earlier, but all of the steering committee meetings that had been held in 2019, 2020, 2021, those were all open to the public as well. So there has been a public process.
Okay.
But it's been made very clear to us that the advertisement of that ability to participate in that public process was maybe lacking some. Again, we're volunteers, we didn't have any.
yes, understand.
So,
Yes.
so if the steering committee is reconvened, then those will be open to the public. And a lot of your specific comments are better made to them, because as we've reiterated, we are just reviewing the plan. So
Yes.
we're just collecting comments to be able to then provide a recommendation, and that's what we're trying to
Does
get
it go
through.
back to the steering committee so they know?
Well, we're gonna be making a recommendation tonight on the plan.
Okay,
Since you started, I know you've been here a couple times now.
yes.
Have you signed up for any list so that you were can
We
stay
are on
informed?
the, I've been reading some of the constant contact emails and such now.
But are you specifically on a list where if a statement comes out about the comprehensive plan, you receive it?
Yes,
Okay, all right. And all you guys, I assume, are on one of those lists. So you know whenever an email is written, you receive a copy. Great.
thank you,
Thank you. Thanks for coming again.
thank you.
Hi, Beck Wagner, Rosewood Lane. I'd like to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and tell you that I recently traveled to Montana, pretty long distance, and I took comprehensive plan with me. Had a lot of time to read it. So, but before I say that, the Planning Commission has finalized the recommendations regarding the comprehensive plan and has forwarded their comments to the Board of Commissioners. Is that
Yes.
in fact?
Yep.
So whatever we say here tonight is,
Well, I would imagine that when that was written, that was our plan, okay? Whatever's written in that report probably has to go to the printer like a month in advance or something. Kelly can answer that better than I, but a month ago or 2 months ago, that was our plan. We were hoping to get something to the
Okay.
Board of Commissioners by last month, but it didn't happen. So you'll have to excuse that because at the time that was written, that was our plan.
you've excused me, so I can certainly excuse you. Okay. So my problem is that I just got, I don't know if confused is the word, but as I read, I wondered, what the heck is going on here? And so by the time I got to, here it is, to the Survey Monkey, things started making more sense. So, greater use of the 100 line. If they'd offer shelters or more frequent stops. They come every 20 minutes. I live on Rosewood. I hear them. That's during the busy time of the day. And then it goes down from there. And there are shelters. I don't know who made up this question, but nobody said that anywhere was the option. Nothing. I am not taking that 100 to 69th Street or to Norristown. That was not an option. That to me would be my answer. I'm not going into the city to save my life. Question 4, improvements to transportation. No mention of traffic on Eagle or Haverford Road. But yet, that's like this huge thing in this comprehensive plan. Question 3, new housing. 71.96% of people wanted single-family detached housing. 50% wanted townhouses. 42% wanted over 55. 39% wanted twins. Apartments above businesses, 15%. And yet, that's what all this hoopla is about. That makes no sense to me. Businesses you want. Small retail, 73%. Restaurants, 75%. Arts and entertainment got 2 questions. I don't know why, 49% and 23%. We're headed into an economic downturn, questionably a recession. Can Haverford Town really afford to go out to dinner? I don't know people that are going out to dinner. I'm just a regular Joe. What else did I want to say? Somewhere in there was about flooding. I'm sorry. So, Haverford Road corridor. Unfortunately, that 100-year floodplain includes sites that are closest to the Norristown High-Speed Line Ardmore Junction Station, including the car wash property. The other commercial buildings are immediately abutting the 100-year floodplain, and several are within the 500-year floodplain. And yet, somewhere else in here, which I don't have marked, specifically says that we're avoiding floodplain. And there was a big discussion about, whether we're trying to save it, last meeting. And was asked to just, not use that wording. Anyway, elsewhere in here, they're talking about parking, that parking could be added for the Wynwood Junction, which would be on the Dogwood Circle side with a bridge over the creek. What? This is wetlands. What are we doing here? Adding 5 parking spaces? I mean, I don't understand. It leads me to believe that whatever was said in here is not necessarily somebody that understood what was going on, because I specifically mentioned Dogwood Circle. One time I spoke, and I was told that's wetlands, we're staying away from there. But it is in here. It's somewhere. I have it highlighted in yellow. Second, I was told. I'm on page 18, the Haverford Road corridor. But that's not the, oh, here's Dogwood. So Dogwood Circle is page 22, the 3rd paragraph, emphasizing tree planting, preserving creek corridors in natural vegetation, and prohibiting new development in flood-prone and wetlands. That's Dogwood. That's not where they said that they could add parking. That's what I have. I'm telling you, I had a lot of time to read this thing.
I know that there was a recommendation of parking there. Crossing Creek. I don't know if you know about the history of Haverford Circle.
That's good. But it's in the plan.
Well, it's in the plan. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Well, my biggest question is, who the heck targeted Haverford Road? Because nowhere in
The
that
steering committee.
Serving monkey,
The steering
survey
committee.
monkey.
The steering committee thought it'd be a good idea.
So even though that wasn't the questions that the township residents answered, steering committee decided that Haverford Road was this huge issue that we had to address.
Apparently they did, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't think that we were very well represented then.
Okay. So
So
what I
that would be
suggest,
my comment.
all I can suggest is if the steering committee gets reappointed or reactivated or whatever, that you make it a point to go to those meetings, okay? So that your voices are heard where it belongs to be heard, okay? Where, before the plan is finalized, okay? And I have a sneaky suspicion that the steering committee will be reorganized again.
Sneaky suspicion.
All right,
Okay.
well,
Thank
stick
you
around.
very much.
Stick around for a few minutes. You'll see. Anyone else?
While you guys were speaking, I started listening and started formulating questions. So I just hope that maybe you could answer some of them. And you may not be. You might have to push it off.
please.
Sure. Helene Convery Smith. I live by Manoa. I'm in the Manoa section of Haverford. I just want to say the U.S. population grew at the slowest pace in history in 2021, according to the census data. And we're not seeing a huge increase in population growth. When we talk about mixed use developments, I just want to say they're often heavily trafficked area by buses, pedestrians, vehicles, and we already have high traffic already on Haverford and Eagle Road already established. And I'm concerned about that, said that before. What I like to know is how many of the current businesses will be impacted when we put corporate stores on, when if we have a big developer come in, because then you kind of lose the attractiveness of Haverford Township, right? It's like we're kind of responsible to one another. That's the nice thing. I grew up in South Philly and we always took care of one another, the businesses on Passyunk Avenue. I came out here, my husband and I, almost 25 years ago because of that, of the business owners and meeting people and talking to people and helping business owners and caring for one another. What's going to happen when we use that, sell off our buildings to big developers? And that's part of what was discussed, and it's in the plan, about the township building. It's in the plan, it's in the comprehensive plan. Like, what is the forethought? Like, what are we looking at in the future? Another question is, how many apartments are there currently in Haverford Township? Does anyone know how many apartments there are? Do we have a number?
Off the top of my head, I do not have that number memorized.
What is it, like an approximate 4,000 apartments?
I could absolutely get you that number if I had known this question ahead of time, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And then
Hold on, there might be something real fast.
I looked at what?
Is it not in the back,
I didn't see it in the
in the
plan.
demographics? I don't know if it is or not, but
I didn't see it in there, that's why I was just saying, I'm thinking, because we're talking about mixed use and apartments, it's always good to kind of look at what you have currently and then are they filled?
yeah, so just real fast if I can. So there's definitely apartments in houses, or like duplexes may be counted as apartments. So even if you had an actual number, it's not necessarily indicative of what the housing might look like. So it's not like every single apartment is going to look like a garden apartment or an apartment complex or something like that.
Right.
But you can kind of get close to it. So units and structure kind of gives you a sense, because you've got, so one unit detached, that would be your single family detached home. One unit attached, that would be like twins and townhomes. And then 2, which is likely a duplex,
Duplex.
where it's like stacked top and
Yes.
bottom. And then anything else, so 3 to 4, all the way to 50 plus, would give you then the things that would be considered apartments. So if we just quick add up those percentages for the township, we're looking at 2.4, hold on, can someone do a quick calculator?
The 2.4.
Who can, I can't do math in my head, so.
Go ahead.
Okay, so 1.7, I'm not 2.4, that's the two, no.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let's start, 1.7,
Mm-hmm.
0.5, 1.5,
3, 7,
2.3,
4, 5,
2.9.
about 9%.
9% of the township's housing stock is apartment, we can reasonably expect about 9% of the housing stock is apartments. That's very low.
Yeah, I would probably like to see that number, so I'll email you. Thank you. Thank you. Then, we keep talking about I keep hearing the township needs more money. We just had a new huge development over in the Quarry Center and stores built into this community. I live by the Quarry Center, and unfortunately, the only thing the Quarry Center has bought me is more traffic and rats. So I'm like, I'd like to know, like, what is it that we're like trying to accomplish? Like, why is it that we have to have an increased tax base? Like, this is all I keep hearing, increased tax base and increased tax base. My taxes are going up. I don't know about anybody else's, but I think we're all seeing that. So I'm trying to understand where this is coming from, because I'm not seeing the big picture. Maybe other people are, but I'm not seeing it.
Well,
Thank you.
the general comment about tax base is you try to reduce the burden on your existing residents. You haven't got your tax bill for next year yet, but it's going to go up.
It goes up every year.
Well, not the township tax. It's the first year the township tax is going up.
But-
School district always goes up.
Oh,
You can count on that.
ridiculously, yes.
So the idea of increasing your tax base is so that you don't see those increases, or not as much of an increase each year. It gets spread out over more people, more
Right.
residents.
But our businesses, our local businesses, they reduced their taxes when the township when the county in 2019 did all of the redistricting, the reassessments, all the businesses reduced lower, and all the homeowners,
the
we all
township-
went up. I know,
township
the
doesn't-
township have nothing to do with that, but we are seeing an increase in taxes.
So increasing your tax base would help reduce those increases in the future. That's the general comment.
It is, but we have the Quarry Center, which we should have significant increase, and now in a tax base with a new huge shopping center that was put in there, 10 years ago? My
I don't
taxes
know
have
if it's
never,
been 10 years, but
it's still not going down.
you can go you'd have to go back and look at how much taxes that group has paid, and subtract that from the net income from the township, and see what that have done to your taxes. Your taxes have been going up from township level for several years, and maybe that's because the Quarry Center was built. If the Quarry Center wasn't there, then maybe you would have seen tax increases each year for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right, and I also see the diversion of funds from the township has increased in other areas, have given other areas. So even though we're not decreasing our taxes, and they were saying the same, there's been increasing in funding and other things that the township has been started to purchase into, so, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for your comments. Appreciate you coming out. You're our faithful group to come out. I appreciate that, taking the time. I guess what I have to say is, generally speaking, I think the Planning Commission has been struggling with this comprehensive plan. Since we started our hearings back in June, I think this is the 10th meeting we've had discussing the comprehensive plan, and I get the general consensus from the members on the board that none of us is really comfortable with how the plan is organized, its format, some of the recommendations that it makes, how it makes those recommendations, how it came up with those recommendations. And because of that, difficulty. We did have a meeting with a couple of the commissioners, a couple of people from the steering committee, and 3 members from the planning commission. We met, I guess, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. And basically, we explained to those people that we were really struggling with this plan, that we really, we feel a little bit like a punching bag to some degree because we're getting blamed for things that were presented to us for review, and we're being blamed as though we wrote the report and it's our recommendations, when really these meetings should have been held with the steering committee, not with the planning commission. So that all said and done, I guess the only decision that we could all mutually agree with is, this plan needs to be reworked to some degree. Okay, and I'm not going to say what that degree is. It could be a lot, could be little. I don't know. It's going to be up to the steering committee, but we're basically going to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners that they reassemble the steering committee and have them relook at this plan, and maybe take additional public comment, or at least advertise it such that more of the general public is aware of these steering committee meetings. We've heard a lot about people saying that they didn't hear about the report last minute, and that's a failure on the township's part, so we've got to try to make that better. So I think that's where we're headed tonight, okay? So after tonight, the planning commission is going to get a break from the comprehensive plan until the steering committee figures out how they want to rewrite it or reorganize it or do whatever they feel is appropriate. Anybody on the board have any questions about that? No? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to that effect if anyone is willing to present a motion.
I would like to present a motion. The background of the motion has been discussed. To reiterate to some extent, the Township Board of Commissioners appointed a comprehensive plan steering committee to serve as the township's planning agency designated to develop a draft comprehensive plan. On June 9th of this year, the steering committee presented that draft comprehensive plan to the Planning Commission for us to review and hear public comment on the draft plan. We have held 9 public meetings on the draft plan. Tonight would be number 10, I believe, as Angelo said. We've received extensive comments from township residents and individual members of the Planning Commission. And we have now a second version of the draft plan. As was just said, the Planning Commission has determined that the draft plan requires substantial revision as to form and substance. And so I move that the draft comprehensive plan be transmitted to the Board of Commissioners with the recommendation that the board refer the draft comprehensive plan to the steering committee as the planning agency charged with revising the draft comprehensive plan.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. And is there anyone who would like to make comments on the motion? Okay, no comments, so we'll take a vote on that motion. Margie?
Mr. Capuzzi,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes?
Ms. Dobbs,
Yes.
Fiordemondo,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett, Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Montresor.
Okay, and what we will do is we will share each of our individual comments with the steering committee so they have a little, maybe better understanding of what our thoughts are anyhow. So give them some guidance in that regards. Okay, so if any of you have anything you want to say further than what you've already said, I would like to get those comments finalized before Christmas if possible. If you're satisfied with what you've already written, that's good. We'll just present it that way.
I have some more formal comments that I will be sending to you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So.
I would just like to emphasize that what we're doing tonight is sending the plan back to the township commissioners. It's going to be, we recommend that it go to the steering committee. It'll be the commissioner's decision whether to do that or not. But that's our recommendation. Then whether or not that steering committee is reconstituted or changed or whatever, that's up to the commissioners. What we did tonight does not impose anything really on the steering committee or the township commissioners.
And as I said, if you've all subscribed to some type of mailing list, then those mailing lists should have updates on the progress of the steering committee if it's reformed and their meetings. I know previously they met on the fourth Wednesday of each month. I would assume that would be their same schedule if they are reorganized or reformed. Okay, but make sure you're on somebody's email list that you would receive those notifications. Okay, don't look for a letter in the mail or someone to stuff your mailbox because it's not going to happen. Okay, it's up to you guys to stay informed. You got to be a little bit proactive in that regard.
The township has a email list, and most of your commissioners have an email list. No? Well, I know Judy Trombetta famously has a good notices of what's going on. She's pretty comprehensive. So I would try to get on her list and on the township list and check the township website as well.
Okay, next item agenda is approval or review of minutes. We have minutes left over from October 13th. I wasn't here that night, so I can't vote on it, but if someone wants to make a motion to adopt those minutes as written.
I move we adopt the minutes from October 13th.
I second.
Marge, why don't you call roll?
I have a question. Margie, were you able to get that one
Yes, I put them right in
small
front.
change? Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank you.
have them over there. Okay, Mr. Capuzzi,
I abstain.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Ms. Dobbs,
Yes.
Mr. Fiordemondo,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett, Ms. Phillips, Mr. Montresor.
And we also have minutes from our October 27th Planning Commission meeting. And I'll make a motion that we adopt those plans as submitted.
A second?
I have a motion and second. Marge, call roll on that, please.
Mr. Capuzzi,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Ms. Dobbs,
I will abstain. I was absent.
Mr. Fiordemondo,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett, Ms. Phillips, Mr. Montresor.
Okay, thank you. This is our last meeting for the year. Our next meeting won't be until January 12th, and that'll be our reorganization meeting, okay? I don't expect to have anything on the agenda regarding comprehensive plan, but what do I know? So anyhow, we won't see you until next year. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And again, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Thank you.